Here comes the sun. How the clouds are transfigured and all of nature with the sunrise. Everything has its figure and its form in the dark. You can't see the details of the branches of the trees. And then you realize with the light, all the little details of the branches. You might hear the voice in the dark of the birds as they begin to wake up. And the first light is coming, but then when the light is strong, you can see the colors of their wings. You can see the form of their bodies, the spread of their wings. Today we celebrate transfiguration, when the figure of things changes. Big transfiguration today. We are used to seeing the form of things in one light, and it's great to see the form of things in the fullness of light. Some great gift about our eye, the capacity to see. What a gift to be able to see. What's that light doing there? Where is it coming from? Well, it's a reflection of a reflection. A reflection of a reflection. And even this sunlight is a little bit indirect. It's 8 minutes old since it left the sun. And the fruit of that nuclear event happening inside the sun, where 2 atoms of hydrogen become 1 atom of helium and give us the sun. Light, heat, energy that comes and packs up all these dates. Look at the amount of dates. Come on. Come on. I'm trying to stretch the screen here to zoom in for you. And it's not behaving yet. We actually need more light to do it, because we're on the back side of the light here. Or maybe it's fully, it's fully expanded. That's why I wasn't expanding more. No wonder. And then I want you to look over here to see this palm tree. I just noticed yesterday evening how the branches are all bending down under the weight of the fruit. As the dates get ripe. I don't see any ripe ones on. Oh yes, there's one here in the ground. Look at this. Oh Lord. There we are. Where's the camera here? There we are. That's the first date from this season I've picked up. And there's another one just after falling, but it wasn't ripe. It's an unripe one. Obviously, it had a poor connection with the branch. So all this light coming from the sun. And we're trained by that in nature. God has trained our mind to be ready for the light. And his clothes became sparkling white, as any bleacher could make. New groups of pilgrims have arrived, and they all show up for the sunrise. Well, not the all, the early risers. The early risers catch the sunrise. were some out here. Actually, when I finished my swim, they were already here. A good half an hour ago and more, 40 minutes ago. I'd like to make a big point today, based on the scriptures. It's all about context. Well, it's not all about context, but context has a big role to play. And many times there's a tendency in some believers just to take one verse in such a way that it kind of outshines all the other verses. And there's some verses that have great potential for that, like John 3:16. It's an expression, a synthetic expression of the love of God. But sometimes they're taken out of context without due respect for the other lines. And I would say today is a masterful moment of contextualization. Like, why are Elijah and Moses present at the Transfiguration? And that shows from the very beginning of Jesus' disciples a great consciousness of the context of Jesus' understanding Jesus. That he is to be understood in the context of Moses and Elijah. Now, what does that mean? They're both persons, but they're also standing for two major bodies of work in the scriptures. Moses is the Torah, and Elijah is, like, let's say, the golden representative of the prophets. So in order to understand Jesus, we need to take into account basically the entire Hebrew scriptures. And that was a heresy at the beginning of the church, where some wanted to say it's only about the Gospels and just the strict words of Jesus and the stories about Jesus' life. But the church was very clear that it needed, for self-understanding and understanding the mystery of revelation of Christ, it absolutely needed the whole context. It needed to be understood in the context, in that framework of the expectation, which was a whole preparation for Jesus. That is the Christian faith. That's the way Christians understand themselves. If we just take one little flower out of context, we can't say we understand nature, There's a lot involved. There's a lot of context. And then I would invite you today, if you want really to celebrate the Transfiguration today yourself at home, if you can't go to church for the celebration of the Transfiguration, a thought occurred to me to suggest to you to take out chapter 9 of Luke, where we find the gospel text, and see each of the events. It's a longer chapter, and see each of the little stories in chapter 9 in the light of the Transfiguration. Take the Transfiguration as a peak moment, which is being built it's being built up. Just hold on a second. I want to see if I can catch this bird close up for you, because I'm pretty close now. She stopped chirping. Well, there she goes again. You see her there? To the right of the stone. She feels successful. She draws me towards her. Like she's saying, come get me. And that way she's drawing me away from something she wants to be protecting. So take each one of the little stories in chapter 9 of Luke, and you'll see that one of the big contexts is the quest for who is Jesus, and the Transfiguration offers a very big answer. Like, it's one of the most explicit, biggest answers there is in the New Testament about Jesus. Graphically described, dramatically presented. And then you take all the events afterwards and see them in that context. That here you're presented with a Jesus who is extraordinary, the Transfiguration, the voice from heaven. And yet at the end of the chapter, he doesn't have a place to lay his head. Imagine the Lord of creation, through whom everything was made, entering that kind of poverty. It tells us a lot also about the body, about our material existence, and about what we need, and what's important and what's priority. And this is why also there's the context of the Transfiguration as a step toward the Paschal mystery, that the disciples need to know that Jesus is not going as a dumb victim, as a stupid, if I can use the word, victim to Calvary. He's not an idiot. He knows exactly what's going on, and he's going to take on Calvary very consciously and intentionally. He's not just a poor victim of other forces at work against him without his knowledge. And he's actually going to have such command that he's going to use all those events and all the hostility and all the violence and all the suffering for salvation, for goodness. And that becomes an extraordinary message for us about all the circumstances of our lives. How our lives can become, no matter what our circumstances are, of ugliness, of pain, of sorrow, of loneliness, of isolation, of hard grinding work, of boring monotony, of decay like this poor tree because this is dying, because it's in flood water, in high water for a long time, so it's lost the battle. And sometimes that's the situation of our lives. And Jesus has that perspective of Calvary ahead, and he's training the apostles, he's teaching them, he's forming them. He's transforming their mindset through his transfiguration to be able also to continue saying yes, to continue following him, to continue trusting in him, even if he's going to end up crucified, which would be the ultimate disgrace, the ultimate tragedy, the ultimate failure, the ultimate destruction. Hey, we got two purple herons lined up here. Look at that. Both of them perched for fishing. I'm not sure if I'm at maximum zoom yet. I think I'm at maximum zoom. It's not going out for me more. So you'll have to see them there, the two purple herons, one far out there on the last bush, in the more or less the center of the screen, and the other one this side on that branch that's leaning over there, leaning a little further with the weight of the bird, obviously. And she's aware of me looking, and now she's stretching out her neck to full length. I love those birds. All God's creatures. And the form of this world is passing. That's a great line from the New Testament. And we're heading to a definitive glory. Wow, there's another purple heron just flew out there. Did you hear her? She's over here now, coming back this way. You just missed her. I didn't wheel the camera around fast enough. So there's a lot already in that, and then we have more context from the reading of Daniel and from Psalm 97. The Lord is King, the Most High over all the earth. Let the earth rejoice, let the many islands be glad. And the second reading from Peter, the second letter of Peter. We do not follow the cleverly devised myths when we made known to you the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but we have been eyewitnesses of his majesty. People, may you be blessed today to be a witness of his majesty, of his glory, of his gift of salvation, of his readiness to live everything for you, for me, the majesty of his glory. God bless you. See you later, alligators. Don't forget, read chapter 9 of Luke. Go do it slowly and see the connections.